Hariharan, and all the students present in the session to the 13th corporate induction of Symbiosis Bengaluru. I would first like to start the session by introducing our college. The Symbiosis Society was established in 1971 by Dr. S.B. Majumdar with the objective of promoting the idea of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the world as one family. Symbiosis spread its wings by establishing its first campus outside Maharashtra in Bengaluru in the year 2008, and SIBM Bengaluru was born. And ever since, we have been consistently churning out exemplary business leaders. Today, we have in our midst Mr. Karthik Hariharan, who leads business for Foxy Moron and which is among the top 5 digital agencies in the country. Sir has over 15 years of experience in the advertising, marketing, and communications industry and has worked with renowned organizations like Leo Burnett, Ogilvy, Lowell Intas in the past. Sir's expertise lies in digital marketing, account management, strategic planning, creative direction, brand building, consumer insights, data, media, and technology. An avid fan of Calvin and Hobbes, among his prized possessions is the entire edition of Bill Watterson's epic comic strip. An electronics graduate turned journalist, postgraduate turned marketer, Sir has also dabbled in entrepreneurship. He believes in building a work culture that empowers people to deliver their best while driving better brand understanding in a fast and fluid digital world. Over the course of his career, his work across brands have won AMEs, FEs, won Intras, and many more awards. Once again, welcome, sir, and we look forward to hearing from you in the session.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction, Yashashvi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of share my screen today, and I'll walk you through some thoughts that I sort of put together for you, and we'll see from there how it goes. So what I'll do is I'll hide myself in the camera right now, and I'll just start listening to my screen. All right. Can you confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. Great. Let me just. Yeah. So hello guys. Good evening. How's the quarantine treating you? Are you guys all stuck at home? You guys were looking forward to join college, I assume, and possibly are still stuck at home and not sure when it's actually going to be officially open. Have you guys got a date in terms of when it's opening?
Sir, nothing as of yet. We are still waiting for any particular notification that is yet to come. We are starting virtually now.
Okay.
So we have online classes right now.
Great. All right. So let me jump into what I have for you today. All right. So first off, thanks for the introduction. And, like it was said earlier, what I do is I do marketing for a living. And I've been doing this for about 15 years now. And where I do work today, I continue to do pretty much the same thing. As most people call it, I work in a digital agency. And I do digital marketing, but my belief is there's nothing called digital marketing. I believe in marketing, which happens to be in the medium that is digital. That's about it. The place I work is called Zoo Media, and Zoo Media is a entity that has a structure which is like a network agency structure under which we have 7 entities. Foxy Moron, and Foxy Moron is where I work, and I lead the South business for Foxy Moron. Phosphine is our creative tech division. All that you see on Instagram, I'm pretty sure most of you guys use Instagram and Snapchat and a whole lot of other apps today. And what you would see in these apps are filters and gamification pieces that keep popping up, right? So the creative technology division, Phosphine, is where we build all of those. So it's the interaction that happens between creativity and technology. Pollen is our creator consulting division, which essentially is influencer management. So a lot of stuff that you see today that influencers post out, share in terms of brand, marketing, all of those are engineered in places like Pollen. So Pollen is our creator consulting division. Rabbit Hole is our studio division. What we do in Rabbit Hole is we do short form content, which is scalable and which is predominantly marketing content. That's what we do in Rabbit Hole. Noisis is our technology division, and that's where we build websites, microsites, apps, products, and bots, and a whole lot of other things. Doinoink is our consulting division, which happens to be our youngest division. So Foxy has spent about 12 years in the industry as of this year, and over the course of these years, we've accumulated know-how in terms of digital, in terms of the country, in terms of brands. So how do you take that and enable digital transformation for brands? That's what Doinoink does. The last, but not the least, is Mammoth Studios. Mammoth Studio is also a studio format, like the Rabbit Hole. The only difference being that while Rabbit Hole produces marketing content, Mammoth produces brand content. What's the difference between both? What you see that a TVF produces is brand content. They create episodical series. There are brands that are engineered into the conversation. So you would have seen a lot of, I don't know if you guys have seen TVF pictures. So a lot of those are seamless integrations with brands. So for example, the best example in the world in terms of branded content is what Red Bull does. So that's what we try and create with Mammoth Studios. So that's largely in terms of the structure of the organization that I work with today. I've spent about 2 years in Foxy now. And what I am going to talk about today is, I'm going to share something in terms of what are my biggest learnings. And I've spent 15 years doing something. And to put it simply, I've gotten better and better and better at it. And you guys are just about embarking on a career in business management. And so if I could crystallize my 15 years of learning and kind of give you a head start into yours, is what I'm looking at to share today in terms of the presentation. Back in time, a lot of you guys would have been told, I have been told many times in the past that, you have to be ready for the race. Life is a big race, and, you have to be ready to go and win out in that race. And it's a competition out there. And then suddenly one day, I think you would see something on Instagram, which is a quote that says, life isn't a race. You can do anything at your own pace, and a whole lot of other motivational quotes that you would see that. But the truth is, it's actually a fuzzy line that is somewhere in between both of these. There isn't essentially a race which is only with you. There isn't a race only with others. It's possibly a mixture of both. That's something that I can tell you, as somebody who's been in this for a fair amount of time. And there is also the chance that you get to be a spectator. And no matter what you choose to do, whether you choose to run with yourself, whether you choose to run with others, or whether you choose to just be a spectator, all of those are fine. But the fact is, there is at some level, it's a fuzzy area whether there is a race or not. But here's the thing with races. I mean, all of you know this guy, right? This guy is Usain Bolt. He's the fastest man on the planet, and this guy is the best of the bet. I mean, the genetics have worked really in favor for him, and he's always going to be the best. But there are two things about this picture that I kind of want you to observe. One is, there's a guy who's at the top of the game, and look at his expression and face. He's actually turning back and looking at the others who are chasing him and running behind him. And, he's having fun while at it, because he obviously knows he's got an edge. He obviously knows that he's got a head start. He obviously knows that, I am engineered for this, and therefore I am going to beat the others. And the other guys are the important guys too. While he's looking at them, they are not looking at him. They are looking at the race, and they're focused on the race itself, right? And this is a beautiful picture that I've always looked up to, in terms of how, the ones who are ahead always look behind, and the ones who are behind always look forward. And wherever you are in the race, I think this is an important lesson. The guy ahead wants to have fun, and while if you are behind, you actually want to go ahead and win that race. So the question really is whether you want to have fun or whether you want to have focus. You kind of need something to do this, right? You will need something to do this and run this race, right? And in comes 2020. 2020 is a very beautiful year, is what everybody thought it would be. But where are the people in 2020? I mean, all of us are sitting in holed up in our homes right now. We thought that we were going to be in a race, but the stadium is empty, the track is empty, and where exactly are the people is the question. Actually, the people are still there, and the race is still on. And despite the fact that 2020 has a perfect ring to it, it almost works very well with the 2020 vision, because that's what a lot of people talk about these days. Uh, we know that it isn't right now. That the stadium looks empty, but is it really empty? Is the question that we have. So knowing that this year is an odd year, where the stadium appears to be empty, but we still need to run the race and we still need to run the track, what is it that we could do differently, and how could we behave differently, is what this entire conversation is going to be about. So much so that my son is a 7-year-old kid, and he has online meetings today. His classes are online, and I was like, when I walk into his room in the morning, he'd be like, I have a class, I have a meeting. So I'll be like, you have a meeting? Yeah, he'd be like, I have a meeting. So the year is an odd year, where a 7-year-old is telling me that he has a meeting, as against he's going to go and play. That's how it is. So in keeping up with the oddities of this year, my conversation with you is also going to be something of that sort. So the topic for today that I've chosen to talk to you about is lessons for the MBA from a non-MBA. I don't hold a business management degree, but pretty much my entire career, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing marketing, and I've been in the marketing support services and business services and management services throughout my career. So imagine this as a perspective that is coming from somebody who's not got the MBA, but who's actually going to tell you what it is that you can learn when it comes to management. So kind of let's even the odds and talk about the one key aspect of corporate life that I've kind of understood over the course of time. It's a very long lesson. When I say it's a long lesson for me, something that took me a long time to understand the importance of. And like I started off in the conversation, when I do want to crystallize my learnings, which is about 15 years of experience, if there's one thing that I felt I could have done better consistently, and even today, I don't think I do well enough, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. All right. And that's got to do with branding and branding and branding. And branding in the sense, it's not about the brands that I've worked with or the choices that work with in terms of brands. I've worked with some of the largest brands in the country. In this list, I have worked with quite a few brands already, including Bosch, including IKEA, including Amazon, including Puma. So a lot of brands that I worked with in the past are large brands. But this conversation on branding is not about the brands that we consume every day, but rather about the brand that you look at in the mirror every day, which is you. All right. Are you guys with me? Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the conversation today is about you and you being a brand. So you are a brand, in fact, right? So this is a presentation by me, but it's a presentation about you and what you guys need to do when you prepare for a management role in the near future. And it's going to cover like my biggest professional lesson that I've picked up over the course of my career so far. One big lesson that I've ever picked up is brands are like babies. And what do I mean when I say brands are like babies? If you ask your parents, they'll probably tell you this. They'd want you to go to the best school. They'd want you to go to the best college. They'd want you to have the best experiences. And the belief is that the outcome of all of these together would lead to success, right? So get into the best school, get into the best college, give you the best experiences, and bam, you come out with a fantastic, successful life. That's the belief that you have, right? There's nothing wrong about it, right? But the truth is this, that, as a baby, what you would need over the course of your time, like any other brand, is you would need nurturing, care, and knowledge. And all of these are intended to only do one thing to you, right? They are all given to you. They are all inputs, and they all are helping you grow. So the input is about nurture, about care, about knowledge, and the intention and the output that is expected is for you to grow. And that's what, if you ask your parents, they tell you that, hey, we've done all that we can in terms of putting you in the best school, into the best colleges, into the best experiences that you could buy with money. And the hope is that you would be, therefore, growing as a person. You would come out as a better person, right? So, in a nutshell, what all we strive for is, in the simplistic sense, growth. And like I said earlier in the start of this presentation, the growth could be something that you would do with someone, against someone, only with yourself, or merely be a spectator looking at somebody else grow as well. Nothing is wrong. But how do you go about doing this growth? That's all what we strive for, right? And a large part of your growth will actually stem from how you build yourself over the course of your professional career. I have just 5 simple life lessons that I think would kind of build you guys for a professional career. So what are the 5 simple things that I could say, that build brand you, right? Like I said, the first 3 things, knowledge, care and nurturing, are things that are always inputs. So how do you groom yourself? How do you grow yourself? Essentially is the first thing that you'll have to kind of understand. What are the 5 simple lessons? I'll talk you through these. The first one is about being real and being authentic. Before I jump into explaining this, the reason I'm talking about this a lot today is, one of the things that we do in corporate life when we want to actually go out and change the destiny of brands, products, services, whatever that we choose to in our line of choosing, we often forget that we need to build ourselves. So I'm hoping that this presentation would kind of give you the importance about how you build yourself and not just organizations, company, and products and services. So the first lesson here is about being real and being authentic. And I don't know if you guys saw this a little while ago. We are in obviously the heat of the COVID scenario. And then we had obviously a little sparring match with China in the border. And the outcome of it was obviously, a diplomatic row between both India and China. And subsequently, what essentially happened where I think 20, 30 odd apps, which were Chinese apps, were banned in the country. All of you, I'm pretty sure, have followed this story, right? And this was a tweet that was put by a very senior Chinese journalist. And it reads simple. Well, if Chinese people want to boycott Indian products, they can't really find many Indian goods. Indian friends, you need to have something more important than nationalism. That's essentially what the journalist tweeted. And this was the response from Anand Mahindra, which you can read. I suspect this comment might be, well, the most effective and motivating rallying cry that India Inc. has ever received. Thank you for the provocation. We will rise to the occasion. So the question that you need to ask yourself in this situation is Anand Mahindra a great businessman? Has he built out a brand which is Mahindra and Mahindra? And Mahindra is obviously known for its world-class automobiles and subsequently a huge slew of products as well in terms of banking, finance, and whatnot, right? It's a diversified conglomerate. And this guy actually runs a huge ass conglomerate. And he's hugely successful. Has he built a successful business? Yes. And what has he done? Has he put India on the world map? Yes. But is he shying away from reality? No, he's not. Which is the important thing to note, that this is coming from a guy who has actually been there, done it, and taken India and put it in the world map. He has a slew of products which are world-class products which have been selling abroad. But the reality is he also acknowledges the fact that the tweet from the Chinese journalist was a very valid tweet. India didn't actually make a significant dent in the global economy yet. Outside of the services and the products that we deliver, there are no world-class innovation products that India can really talk about. So despite him being at the helm of affairs of a large corporation and a conglomerate, he also understood the reality is very different. As much as we'd like to chest thump and say that we are the best product and we have an ancient civilization and whatnot, the reality is a harsh one. It's a lot more different, right? I mean, China doesn't need to sit and ban anything Indian because we haven't made any inroad out there. So the truth here is, when you're authentic and when you acknowledge the fact that, this is the truth, you are not simply playing to a jingoistic narrative. You're not playing to a narrative that is being fed by a lot of conversations in the Twitterverse, in the social media, in news broadcasts and whatnot. There are many iconic businessmen in our country today, right? I mean, huge as ones, like right from the Tatas to the Birlas to the Ambanis to whatnot. All of them had enough gravitas to respond to this, but it was Anand Mahindra who kind of responded to, and he responded to this in a very accepting, challenging way. So he didn't obviously give up the fact that we would need to go out and build something, but he also acknowledged the fact that we don't have something that is outstanding that we can go out in the world and not talk about it from 1,000 years ago. So the lesson here is simple. It's a lesson for the times, right? Pride and ego have no place in reality. So the first lesson that I kind of wanted to dwell upon is when you are out in the business management world, when you are, creating this brand for yourself, you might choose to do this on Instagram, you might choose to do this through writing blogs, you might choose to do this on LinkedIn, you might choose to do this on any medium of your choice. You might choose to write a book, or you might choose to release a exclusive ebook or a podcast or whatnot. You might choose 20 different avenues to talk about it, but you have to be authentic. You have to be real. And tomorrow, when you want to go and build out a brand for yourself, the first thing that you will have to think about is, am I being authentic? And it's simple because, your pride and ego have no place there. As long as you're true to yourself, that's the only thing that matters. No matter where you are, at which stage in your life you are, and however high you've reached. The second thing is about being relatable. And when you become relatable, you let other people share your story. I think most of you guys would have heard of Humans of Bombay and Humans of New York, right? These are stories of simplicity. These are stories of people like you and I, somebody who's been there, done that, out there all the time. And their stories are being shared, reshared, reposted, and talked about in multiple forums. And they're even picked up by news broadcasters today and taken into a coverage story as well. So what is very difficult that I've learned from a branding point of view, right, is a lot of brands find it very, very difficult today to be relatable. And a part of the reason is a lot of brands, if you see today, are very idealistic. They want to go out and solve problems that are too high and mighty beyond them. They want to be, idealistic in their notion. So you will see brands talking about world peace, about, love between religions, about love thy neighbor, and whatnot. You will see brands about taking a political discourse, having a point of view. All of that is great, but if it is not relatable, if that political discourse, if that situation is not relatable to you, that communication is going to fail. That brand is going to fail. It's not going to make a dent. So think of it from a brand's world, and if you have to pull it from an individual world, when you are branding yourself, you have to make yourself relatable. You have to make yourself as simple as possible so that everybody can understand. And I think as of 2 days ago, this happened, which is something that I picked up. And this was a conversation and interview with Aditya Puri. Aditya Puri is the managing director of HDFC India. And Aditya Puri, in an interview, happened to mention something very, very simple about how, that's a tweet that says, we were from middle class backgrounds wearing Bata shoes, but wanting to create a world class bank. And the humility and the fact that these guys were talking about their story and they've not forgotten their past. They were these young Turks who went out to build a world-class bank, but they were still wearing Bata shoes and doing it. And Bata picked up that conversation, obviously, and they talked about it. It's humbling to see that people with dreams can achieve, and they've talked about giving more power ahead. And in response to that, Aditya, in fact, sent a cake to the Bata team, to the head of India, Sandeep, and talks about the transformation of the brand and the fact that he still continues to prefer Bata as a brand to wear with. So when he walks out today, you know that this guy who is the managing director of HDFC is wearing a Bata shoe and walking out. And this conversation is about relatability. It makes everybody think that this is aspirational. At the same time, it's an inspiration as well. It allows you to be relatable. It allows you to make a dent in people's mind and cuts across all hierarchies. So the highest order person, the managing director of a company saying this makes you feel like, hey, this is the same shoes that I'm wearing today when I join as a management trainee in an organization. And tomorrow, I should never forget this. So the fact that when you go out to build a brand out of yourself, always remember this and always remain relatable. In a nutshell, remember your roots. It makes you very accessible and it makes you very, very, very understanding. The third thing that I kind of want to talk about today is your voice. And in this case, your voice necessarily doesn't mean that, we talk a lot about brands in terms of brand sonics. You guys must have heard about brand sonics in a big way in school or in college or, in passing as well in a conversation. And brand sonics is a great way in which brands kind of, embark upon impacting you subconsciously. You recognize the brand from a certain tone of voice. You recognize the brand from a certain oral quality or a chime. So right from Nokia to Britannia to whatnot, many brands have done this, right? They've created the Britannia's iconic ting 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 or the Titan tune, which is the Beethoven tune. All of these are signatures. You recognize the brand because of a certain tone of voice. You recognize the brand. Like when you think of an Apple product, there's a certain tone of voice that they have, right? In terms of how they communicate about the brand and what they talk about the brand. If you just remember shot on an iPhone, if that has a voice, the entire communication has a voice. The voice is just the picture and that one little line saying shot on iPhone. That's all. They wanted to talk about camera quality. They didn't go around saying that, hey, I have 100 megapixels in my camera with this kind of resolution. They shot a picture, put an outdoor vinyl on it, put a hoarding on it, and say, hey, this is the quality that my camera is capable of. That's the conviction. That's the voice that they have built for the brand. One of the brands that have done this really, really very well is Coca-Cola. And, they've done this over years. And a brand that is sort of testimony to how you do sonic branding. So the clinking of ice on the glass, the pouring of Coke into the glass, the fizz, and then the sound is a part of the Coke brand sonics. Now, next time or every time you hear this sound playing out in the background somewhere, you will immediately recollect Coca-Cola. And over years, they've engineered this to perfection. There are so many brands that have engineered sounds to perfection. The Kit Kat, for example, the snap that they do with the little tear and then snap is also a sonic device. You know that it's a Kit Kat ad playing, right? More than the jingle, more than all of these are auditory qualities that kind of give a voice to the brand, which is unheard of otherwise. So let's look at it from a real life perspective as well. I don't know if you guys follow this guy, John Cena. Obviously, he's a very, very popular Instagrammer. He has 14.2 million followers. And now, if you do not know him, I mean, I would suggest you Google the guy. But I've seen John Cena perform in different avatars. And one of the things that he was very well known for was he was a wrestler. He was this crazy wrestler who used to walk into a ring screaming with fire running behind him and a whole drama and scene created behind him. And then subsequently, he became an actor, like most people progress in their career in that path. And he did these huge macho action roles that were typically expected of him. And then in comes his Instagram profile. If you guys have seen his Instagram profile, he just posts pictures without any explanation. And that's what is written on his Instagram bio. Just look at his Instagram bio. It says, athlete, welcome to my Instagram. These images will be posted without explanation for your interpretation. Enjoy. Who knew this guy had a sense of humor? Right? I mean, he was shown as this macho, muscled up guy in his wrestling matches. Subsequently, he was shown in movies in pretty much the same format. And this huge 6'5" guy, all muscled up, having a sense of humor is not what you typically expect. But his entire Instagram is just about this. Very random pictures, crazy pictures, which invoke a little chuckle in you. So there's a sense of humor that is there. So he's built a voice for himself with just pictures. His personality comes through with pictures that he is this guy who finds odd things funny, right? And when you go out to build your brand, my suggestion here is create that voice. And that voice should be a representation of yourself, about your real personality, about your true personality, which goes back to the first point itself. So for you, it's important that you identify what is it that you want to talk about and show about yourself. So it's about your tone. It's about bringing alive your personality and, sort of amplifying your personality. Do not fake one. Don't create a fake personality in the online world or in whatever world that you choose to create when you are a professional. But it's about making sure that you bring the best of that personality that you choose to bring alive. The fourth point is, build a niche. And when I say build a niche, the goal is to find a context or a cause that is personal to you, that you think you will see through, you will be able to cover through in terms of changes over time. You'll be able to follow through in terms of changes over time as well. That's something that you are passionate about. That's something that you are interested in. That's something will never, ever, ever go out of fashion or bored for you. So in this case, I'm going to show this little example. Um, the guy featured here is this guy called Karthik Hariharan, and sort of Karthik is my first name, and we share the first name. And incidentally, we were colleagues as well back in Ogilvy. And Karthik is a consultant, a communications consultant, and if you follow him on LinkedIn or if you've seen him on LinkedIn, he's come in a lot of shows. He comes in a lot of podcasts too. And the interesting thing about Karthik is twofold, right? He started off with a blog called Beast of Tral, which is based on a character from a book. And that entire blog was about music. He was a big, big music aficionado. So what he did was he actually wrote about music, critiqued music, put down sources of music. So for example, if somebody stole a track from some other place, he would say, hey, this sounds similar to this one. And he was started off like that. And then obviously he had a day job, which was in communications and marketing. And he started to write about communications and marketing in a big way. And he kind of diversified his interest into two areas of expertise. One was about music, the other was about communications. And what he did was he started critiquing, commenting, and having a point of view on interesting pieces of communication that caught his eye. And he consistently does this. He's very, 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 very consistent. So when you have a niche, you have to be consistent with that niche. So when he picks up a communication, he talks about it, he writes a point of view and explains. And this was something that he did pretty recently as well, I think over the last couple of weeks. He picked up this little story on Scotch Brite and the scrubbing pad that is there. You would have seen people in your home use it or you use it as well. And the image on Scotch Brite next to the logo is that of a face, and the face is a little bindi if you see. And this was a post that he wrote on LinkedIn. This post obviously got picked up. It got carried in Hindustan Times, and it traveled the distance. And a lot of people, in fact, reach out to Karthik for a lot of quotes and a point of view, with a simple fashion that he has invested his time and energy in only doing this very, very well. So what essentially it means for you when you say build a niche is you need to pick a subject, and that subject has to have something to do with your passion. It has to be, you have to be passionate about it. It can't be a subject that today you think that, hey, I want to talk about artificial intelligence and I have no background and no interest, but it's the cool thing to talk about today, so I will talk about it today. It can't be that. So the subject and the passion will have to be interlinked. If you want to talk about Carnatic music, or if you want to talk about saris, or if you want to talk about parenting, or whatever that you want to choose to talk about, it has to be something that you're passionate about. And then you need to follow it through. The follow it through is extremely, extremely important here, because you can't let go of it at any given point in time. And this again, I would say from a branding point of view, when a brand talks a particular language, it talks for it for years and years together. The best example that I could think of off the bat right now is Dove. And I think most of you, when you were children, might have seen the early Dove commercials, which would show 1/4 moisturizing cream. That was the promise for the brand, and that was the promise for the brand for over 20 plus years. And subsequently, the promise for the brand today is about real beauty, and they've continued that for now 15 years plus. So they follow it through. It's not a conversation that was for a trend that was happening at that point in time, but it was a conversation that actually you have to follow through. So the only way that you will build a niche is you have to pick a subject and a passion that are interlinked. You have to follow it through, and therefore you will build a niche in that subject. The last part, and one of the important parts of this entire conversation also is the image, which again brands do pretty well, and that is the packaging that goes into brands. And a lot of you guys must have seen this too, which is the recent packaging of Lay's by Pepsi. And they made this packaging which is a little quirky, and I saw a lot of people posting pictures about this some time ago with the packs held to their face. And you do know that this entire product is something that's filled with air and calories. Half of the pack is air, the rest of the half of the pack is calories. But it's something that still is able to beat your rational sense. You go, you see the pack, you see that little orange pack or red pack or whatever flavor that makes your tongue a little thirsty for something crunchy, and you go out there and you actually stop there because the pack engages you, and you then go and pick up that product despite the fact that you know that this possible product is a little empty inside and it's not going to really add any value to you, right? So packaging is extremely important, because all the four lessons that I talked about earlier, right, is pointless if you hold from visible self-expression. If you withhold yourself from visible self-expression, you're not going to be effective. There's no point about you talking about all the four things that are there, which is about being real or being authentic or being relatable or building out your voice and building out a niche, and you're not actually packaging all of this together in some sense. So my suggestion and submission to you is all of these parameters that I talked about, right? When you get into management, when you get into business management, and whatever that you choose is your field of expertise, my only recommendation is start building yourself, and start building yourself in a very visible way. It cannot be that you build yourself for your immediate superior, your manager, or somebody else. You'll have to build yourself as a brand, and that has to be visible. A brand never shies away from any opportunity to expose itself. Every little corner you will see some form of advertising or some form of pick me up from any brand. Like, you turn into the corner, if you're possibly, I don't know, sifting through Instagram right now in this conversation, I'm pretty sure you would have been served a few ads which are related to your interests. Or if you're, I do not know, watching some series on Netflix right now, putting yourself on mute on the side, but which is the only case where you would be able to avoid advertising. Otherwise, you're not going to avoid advertising much, right? So when you are doing this, you have to be visible. So when you are going out there and building yourself as an individual in the corporate world, my only submission is the first 4 points, about you being real, being authentic, being relatable, being somebody who builds out a voice and a niche, is all going to fall flat if you don't make it visible to the outside world. Because keeping it within your shell, because that's what I did for over years together, I felt that if I was good at my job and my boss recognized my efforts, that's more than enough. And I'm happy. But in today's world, it is not enough. You have to build yourself far beyond the clutches of the organization or your immediate reporting manager. You have to build yourself beyond these boundaries. And that's something that I've learned pretty late in my career. And I felt that if somebody had told me that I had to invest in not just the internal brand building within the organization, but the external brand building outside of the organization as well, I would have been far more happier. So my piece of advice is, like the 5 points that I said, is one is about being real and being authentic. And I'm going to repeat that again because it's extremely important that you say what you think and you think what you say. Then the second is about being relatable. You have to cut across people. You can't suddenly talk about something which nobody understands, or completely alienate yourself from everybody and assume that everybody is going to understand you. If you want everybody to understand you, you have to be relatable. The third thing is about your voice, which is the sonics. How do you want to communicate it? Do you want to do everything with a twang of humor? Do you want to do everything with a twang of energy? Do you want to do everything with a twang of fun? Do you want to do everything which is quirky? So how you want to build your voice is something that's extremely important. The fourth one is about building a niche. Like I said, building a niche is extremely important from the point of view that you ensure that you are linking your subject and your passion together, and you're staying consistent about all of these things. And all of these come together very well only when you package it very well. So you could choose to do this over a podcast, you could choose to do this over a blog, you could choose to do this on LinkedIn, you could choose to do this on Twitter, you could choose to do this on Instagram, or you could choose to do this on something else that Facebook or some other company might launch in the near future. But it is important that you package and represent yourself very well to the external world so that everybody can kind of see what you are made of and understand and learn from you as well. And therefore you end up building yourself as a brand. So the lessons from branding are, in some sense, not only for brands, but for individuals as well. So these are my 5 lessons to you guys. And I mean, it's 2020. So I'm going to kind of wish you guys the best. And that's my Twitter handle. And you can look me up on LinkedIn as well. And that's what I have for you today.
Thank you so much, sir. We can open for the Q&A now. We already have a few questions. I would request Vaishnavi to unmute herself and ask the question.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Am I audible?
You're very feeble. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm more than happy to hear you today. So my question here is, even I am looking forward for a career in communication, advertising, and marketing. So all I want to know is what are the prerequisites in reference to education and the learning I should have to make a very sound career in the same niche as I just
So
spoke about.
when you say advertising and marketing, right, there are 2 facets to it. All right. So advertising by itself is a creative business. All right. So there is a creative aspect to it, and marketing is not just advertising. Marketing is a lot more than advertising it is. So the question really that you need to answer to yourself is, which do you want to pursue? If you want to pursue advertising, that's actually a very different career path itself. If you want to pursue marketing, that's a different career path as well, because advertising is a subset of marketing. It's not the only thing in marketing. So advertising is like you become a specialist in one particular area of marketing. So my suggestion to you is, you'll have to identify what is that. So that, and to answer it specifically from an advertising point of view, there isn't any speciality that is required. All right. One of the fundamental things that a lot of people, like, I started off this entire conversation telling you guys that, you know, a lot of people talk about digital marketing, and I'm pretty sure in your curriculum you have something called digital marketing at some point in time, and somebody's going to talk about digital marketing to you. And my only submission to you guys is, there is nothing called digital marketing. All right. It's only marketing. There's nothing called TV marketing, radio marketing, print marketing, and stuff like that. You don't have an agency that called itself TV marketing agency, right? I mean, you didn't have an agency in the 1800s when printing technology started that called itself print agency. They were just an advertising agency, and they had marketing support services for whatever the medium is, right? And the medium today is digital, because consumers like you are spending a lot more time on digital, and marketers and advertisers like me are trying to get to you guys. Because you're in that medium, we'll try to reach you in that medium. So there's only marketing in a digital world. There is nothing called, digital marketing. That's the first thing that I want to clarify. So when it comes to marketing, I think by default an MBA is an extremely important thing. I don't have to say much beyond that, because that's what you've enrolled for in a business school, right? But when it comes to advertising, there are no hard, fast rules. I've had people who have been a dentist who have come and joined me. I've had an architect who's come and joined me. I've had somebody who's done fashion design come and join me as well in my multiple stints in multiple agencies. All that you need to know is, you need to have common sense and a pulse for people. That's about it.
So, sir, the same goes for the marketing as well. Like with the fact that I'm doing MBA, and it might help me in growing in the marketing career if I take that specialization in near future.
Mhm.
So, all I want to know is, like, is there anything else that I should add on to my curriculum or to my overall brand, as you told, which can help me?
So your overall brand, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah. My point is here. So my point is that is there something that can add on to my overall brand, which can make me, better in front of the recruiters, or better in the front of people who are wanting to work with people related to marketing or in that niche,
which is uh,
irrespective.
which is the entire point of the session that I just took. When
Yeah.
you talk about marketing, you need to know how to market yourself. So if I have to kind of crystallize what my entire presentation was, the 5 points that I talked about is about how
Yeah.
to market yourself or how to brand yourself. And if you follow through that play, so you're starting your career soon, right? And you just got into college right now. So the point here is that over the course of the next 2 years that you're going to be doing this, what you have to do is you'll have to build that specialty for yourself. It could be a passion or a subject. For example, if you choose advertising as a subject area that you want to work with, then you can start, writing a blog or a podcast about advertising. If you want to do data analytics or data science, so marketing itself is a very diverse function today. It's not like as linear as it was before, because there's performance marketing, which is a specific KPI-led area that people actually qualify with. So you'll have to identify within that. And I mean, to answer that question, I need to know you a lot more personally. And the only way that I would have to know you a lot more personally is if you actually present me in terms of these are the things that I am interested in, and therefore I'll be able to guide you. But outside of that, you have to see what your passion is, your subject matter expertise will be, and it's going to be consistent, and build that niche. And when you do that for the next 2 years, in some sense, and if you go to a recruiter and sit in front of the table and say, hey, what have you done outside of your management degree? You'll be able to talk about it. You'll be able to say, this is what I have done. And therefore, you'll be able to brand yourself far better. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I request Saifali Mishra to unmute herself and answer the question, ask the question.
Good evening, sir.
I can't hear whoever is speaking.
Good evening, sir.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
I'm,
I can hear a very feeble hello. That's about it.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, much better now.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. I have a very long question for you, and it comes from a very personal experience.
Sure.
So my question is not from a student's point of view, but a consumer's point of view.
Sure.
Like the products like Endura Mask and white tone powder and all of these stuff, when they show this on the audio visual platform, like a dark girl getting sad, not being selected for matrimonial sites, and then she applies it, and then suddenly there is a list of bachelors who are willing to marry her. Do you feel, because you are in this platform for a very long time, do you feel that this has in a long extent some way affected the way we think, the way the society thinks now?
Okay, so it is a complex question. It's not a long question, but I'll be candid to tell you that popular culture, all right? This is like asking if Bollywood influences people or people influence Bollywood. Pretty much the same question, all right? So this is not an advertising related question alone. Like if Katrina Kaif is looking great in pictures, you want to buy the same clothes. There are people who sell clothes that are ripped off from the movie industry and sold as, I forgot the website's name as well. But so it's a cyclical process. I'll just ask you a simple question. Do you know Santa Claus?
Through myths and stories.
Yeah. So what do you know about Santa Claus?
That he's a rounded man who brings gifts on the eve of Christmas.
Do you know how he looks?
The way they've put it is a old man with white beard and a round belly.
Yeah. Do you know what he really looked like?
No.
Do you know who created that image?
Our ancestors.
No, they didn't. People like me created that image. Just say.
Okay.
Santa Claus was created by Coca-Cola. All right.
Okay.
The round, pot-bellied, bearded man that you described was not the original Santa Claus. Santa Claus was a Saint Claus, a German evangelist. He wore green, for the record, till the time Coke decided to change it to red in all the malls in the in USA. USA had what was called a mall culture. So if you go back and just read about Santa Claus, you would know he's a cheerful, happy, jolly fellow, right? He brings gifts to everybody, makes everybody happy, right? So my counter question to you is: hasn't advertising made people happy about it? Right. So it's a very difficult question to answer. But the truth is, advertising influences pop culture, and pop culture influences advertising. So, for example, the same case of Dove, right? Dove talked about 1/4 moisturizing cream for years, right? And the same company that produces Dove talks about Lux, which is about soap for the stars. And today, Dove talks about real beauty, right? So there's a greater sensitization that the impact is there. So there's no taking away that advertising has severely impacted it, but it is also people who have fueled that impact, is what I would say. So a part of the fact that people innately want it, culture, like, it's not that advertising suddenly discovered that dark skin is bad, or being skinny or being fat is bad. It was always seen as something detrimental, right? I mean, right from your nursery rhymes. My son, when he went to LKG, it was chubby cheeks, dimple skin, or whatever that entire thing. And not every kid is like that, right? In fact, that conversation has undergone a transformation today. So it's all a lot more cautious. So culture has influenced advertising, and advertising in turn influences culture. It's a vicious circle. It's not like one thing. It's not linear, is what I'm saying. So advertising has done good things as well. So when Dow spends billions of dollars saying, be happy about who you are, I think a good message also gets through.
Yes.
That's
Right.
why.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have the next question from Priyanshu.
Yeah.
Priyanshu, are you there in the call? Okay, I think there's some connection error. The next question can be
Hello,
taken from.
and I'm there. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yo.
Sorry for delay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, since you talk about the personal branding and also about creating a niche, I wanted to ask, sir, how does one create a niche in a typical work environment? As in, does one have to follow a passion or a hobby, or does someone can create a niche also while doing their regular office duties and the regular work environment as well?
See, I'm not an expert in creating a niche myself. Like I said, I've decided that I need to do something like this after spending a good 15 years in the job. All right. So the first thing that is wrong with your statement is creating a niche within the organization. That's your job. You want to stand out in the organization that you are in anyway. What I am trying to tell you is you have to create a niche outside of the organization. And like I gave an example of a colleague, Karthik Hariharan. And the guy created a niche in writing. He was a communications consultant, and he's been doing that for a very long time. I think 20 plus years, possibly right now. He started writing a blog on music. It had nothing to do with his day job. He reviewed music by A.R. Rahman. He reviewed music by Nadeem Shravan. He reviewed music by Ilaiyaraaja. Whoever it is, he reviewed music and the work of music. And his popularity started there. And subsequently, he also branched out into talking about communication because he got passionate about more communication pieces that were being produced. So the point is that creating a niche is not necessarily within the organization. You could choose to create a niche, like if you are passionate about animals and if you are passionate about veganism, I don't know what you're passionate about. You can create a niche there itself. You can talk about it. All that I'm trying to say is when you have to build a brand for yourself, that effort will be recognized wherever you go. That's my only piece of advice to you. So it has to come from you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Aruna Ranjan.
Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Hello, sir. Good evening. My doubt
Good
is
evening.
that, as opposed to earlier days when advertisements were 30 seconds long TV commercials or jingles, if I may, now we have longer advertisements that last for 3 to 4 minutes, and it also involves an emotional aspect to it, and mostly portrayed, predominantly showed on online platforms. So how does this help a brand considering the fact that most of these platforms offer to skip the advertisement after 5 seconds of it being played, while the the making of the advertisement costs much more than how much it is shown on the
I don't know
platform?
where you've seen a 3-minute ad. Was it like a pre-roll is what you're talking about?
Something like Google reunion ad, like I think Ogilvy made that one
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was run on television as well, and
Hmm.
not just on YouTube. There's nothing wrong with having a strong story. All right. Typically, brands engage in two types of communication: tactical communication, which is about getting the point across as fast and as incisive as possible, and the other one is to ensure that you have some kind of storytelling. And Google, incidentally, has always gone the storytelling route. To answer your question specifically, because you talked about the Google ad and the 3-minute ad, and the fact that people skip ads, when you have a skip ad, you don't have to pay for it, actually, hypothetically. I'm just saying. So the media inventory is chosen. There are non-skippable ads too, and there are skippable ads too. So a part of this process is also a learning process in terms of what people are willing to watch and how long. The brand is able to gauge whether you're interested in content that is long form content that is a little bit more narrative and storytelling oriented than something which is a lot more tactical. Chances are you saw that entire ad. all right, because you want to know what happened at the end of the story. A lot of brands have done this in the past as well. So, I mean, typically television ads were deemed for 20 seconds and 30 seconds only because the spots got expensive. The per second cost for a spot was far, far higher. But even then, back in the day, I do not know if have you guys heard of this company called Air Deccan?
Sorry, sir?
Air Deccan. There was a company called Air Deccan which got acquired
Air
later
Deccan.
on. Yes.
Yes,
Air
yes,
Deccan
sir.
released one of its first TV commercials, which was a 1.5 minute TV spot. It was not even digital, which cost a bomb. And if you've heard of Apple, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So Apple released one commercial only for one Super Bowl in 1984. I don't know if you've seen the commercial, but you should go back and see that commercial. It was one spot released just once, and it's talked about even today. So the way advertising works is two forms. There is medium and message, right? It is a healthy combination of both. If your message is very strong, you do not need to invest so much in the medium, which is what people call as viral, because you hope that thing goes viral, right? You don't have to spend media monies in ensuring that it gets shared and ensure it gets pushed. So there's no hard and fast rule to it, but companies actually get a lot of data in judging your behavior. So when you skip the ad, they'll know why you skip the ad and when you skip the ad.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. We'll take the next question from Yash Nitin Kabra.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think my question is in similar lines with what Shafali asked, but it goes to a different angle. So I'll just read my question anyway. So being in branding and advertising, if a product like Fair and Lovely or any other product that inadvertently promotes stereotypes comes to you as a client for a campaign, do you look at such products through the lens of a marketeer, or do you follow and adhere to the moral code and lose business?
So the simple answer to it is I look at it as a marketeer, and almost every person looks at it as a marketeer. The moral code comes into play in terms of what kind of communication and message you put out with a brand. All right. So Fair and Lovely has also undergone a change. I do not know if you followed the journey of the brand significantly, but today it's called Glow and Lovely for whatever it is. We'll skip that. That's because of an enforced ASCII ruling and all of that. But if you see the journey of the brand itself, it's undergone a significant change. Initially, the brand always spoke about only one thing: confidence, right from its early days, and their fairness was was the route to confidence or whatever it is. To answer your question, there's no company that's going to be. You'll find some problem somewhere in every company. If I look at it, right? I mean, ITC. I work with ITC for a long time. ITC is known to manufacture tobacco. So am I suddenly going to say no to working with ITC? It's the largest tobacco manufacturer, right? So you will always find alcohol. A lot of people have issues with alcohol, right? Alcoholism is a real problem, right? And if I look at detergents, they have microplastics in them. So it's pollution. So everywhere I can't put a moral fiber, because then I shouldn't be in the business of advertising. I should be possibly doing something else and become a god man and preach to people. That's not going to happen. So you will have to work sure that you follow your moral ethics come into place in not choosing the brand, but how you put the message out for that brand.
All right. So all of the big names in advertising would not straight away reject such products, and they would I
think they shouldn't.
Rebrand.
I think they shouldn't reject such products. So, for example, take Tanishq. I worked on Tanishq for a fair amount of time. Tanishq is always about the woman in the forefront. They have done a remarriage commercial. They've done the woman riding. I mean, typically you would see the dad driving the car and, the girl sitting in the back seat or something. They've always shown the woman at the helm. Advertising are also agents of change. I mean, going back to an earlier question, it can enforce stereotypes or it can also break away stereotypes. I do not know if you've seen the Mintra film where there's a lesbian couple who is about coming out to their parents and the parents are meeting. So a lot of brands have done this. Lee had done it in their in-store. If you walked into a Lee store about, 14 years ago, they promoted homosexuality. They said, we're open to homosexuals. There was a poster that pretty much celebrated it. So advertising can break stereotypes or fuel stereotypes. It's about the choice of the brand that you, as a communication expert, will have to make.
If I just may extend my question, since the Pride Month was just last month, and every brand that is into selling products or services to the young generation, just put up their Instagram DPs in rainbow and this then completely change it when it comes to the month of July. So what are your thoughts about this? Is it like is it not morally, questionable that
You have
when it
a
comes to
lot of
Pride
moral
Month?
issues, man. That's what I can. No,
I
it's
do,
not.
I do, yeah.
It's not morally questionable. I'll tell you why. So this is like asking, when people put up a little black box for Black Lives Matter, or
Right.
for any cause that you support as an individual when you do it, right? I don't know if you've seen Amazon. Recently Jeff Bezos wrote out a big ass post about Black Lives Matter and the kind of hate that he gets on Black Lives Matter, and he clarified that we are going to go and stand and support it, right? So it's about being a torchbearer for it. Some people obviously are going to pay lip service to it, but there is solidarity. When brands come out and say that I am with you on this, it opens up the conversation far more. Your conversation on Pride Month travels the distance. Like if there are 10 people who could see it earlier, today a million people see it because brands are partaking in that conversation. So I don't see that as something that's necessarily superficial. Even if the intent is superficial, I'm okay with that intent because it's just helping take a good message further. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, that's why I agree. Advertising has helped to bring about the communication about LGBTQ a lot in
Yes.
the masses. So yeah,
Like
that's true.
not just LGBTQ. Like for
Yeah,
example,
just one of the.
there was Make in India that happened, and right now, vocal for local is the one that
Yeah.
is the government policy. Now, just forget vocal for local for a second and pull back. Before that, they talked about the COVID scenario and the hygiene issues that are to be followed for COVID. The government had a narrative, right? The government went out there and said, these are the ways you have to wash your hand, you have to cover your face, don't touch your face. Their message could go only to 100 people. That's the money that they have to push that message. When brands started to talk about it and saying that I will also partake in this conversation, Lifebuoy started doing it about washing hands. And they went out and said, don't just wash with Lifebuoy, you wash with any soap for that matter. Right? So it just enables and facilitates that good message to take the distance. It goes the distance. It goes into the villages, it goes into the towns, it goes into the individual's house consistently, right? So I think any good message, we should be supportive of it. I'm okay with that. I don't see that as conflicting or morally, dubious.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So considering the paucity of time, we'll take one last question and we'll take the rest offline. I request B. Dhanesh to unmute himself and ask the question.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Ganesh. Hi. Good evening.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the session. My question is regarding the declining attention span when it comes to digital media users. I mean, there was a time when people would sit through 1 minute or 2 minute ads, but in recent times, and in fact, there was a report by one of the research institutes that said that in the recent last 4 months, when we had the lockdown, the attention span has even declined further. And it's in that 1 or 2 seconds that you see the screen, the colors of it, or it's in that split second that a consumer decides whether to go ahead with the ad or not. So I presume that it'll be immensely challenging for any advertiser to put across their brand tagline, considering to capture the attention in that 1 second. So can you shed your light on your personal experience in dealing with such a challenge?
Okay. Again, this is a very media-specific question, but I will kind of answer this slightly differently. All right. So the attention span is decreasing, and I mean, it started with something at 15 seconds, then 6 seconds, and then goldfish memory or whatever it is. A part of the reason that it's difficult also is because there's a I'll pull back in time. All right. Do you know why advertising came into being?
Sorry?
The modern form of advertising that we know it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Why did it come? Like, who started advertising the way we know it today? I mean, not just digital. You've seen. I'm assuming at some point in time in life, you guys have touched a newspaper,
Yes. Yes.
right? So, what do you think started advertising?
I
The way you know it?
specifically don't know, but I think posters were the good start, like from back in the day.
No, so posters, obviously, yes. I mean, advertising is one of the oldest professions in the world by that logic. In fact, it's known to be told as the second oldest profession in the world, specifically because you go to a marketplace, somebody's going to scream out and have some board or something that says tomatoes for 2 rupees or whatever it is. Right? Even that is advertising at the end of the day. So, yes, a poster is an advertising, but the modern form of advertising that we know today with media and commissions and stuff like that involved, how did it begin? What do you think was the reason that it started? Take a guess.
Hmm. I think the availability of new mediums, like suppose there's a new pathway that's created, the opportunities are looking to create more and more advertising opportunities in that media.
Actually, it's not that. All right. The reason why advertising was not created because there were more opportunities. The reason advertising was created was because of printing technology. All right. The way we know advertising today. So when printing technology happened, what do you think happened? Newspapers came into being.
Yeah.
And what do you think the problem with newspapers was back then?
In terms of advertising,
In the problem with newspapers in general, not in terms of advertising.
maybe the consumers start associating the brand of the advertisement with the
No, don't
reputation
even
of the
get into
newspaper.
advertising. I'm asking what was the problem newspapers had?
Okay, I have no idea, sir.
The problem newspapers had was they didn't have enough news, man.
Oh, okay.
All right. Newspapers were printed every fortnight back in when newspapers started coming out. Because to get one point of news to another place, have you heard of this company called Reuters?
Not really.
Okay, so you should Google Reuters and you know what Reuters is about. So news was not enough to fill a newspaper. When you take a broadsheet, they didn't have enough news to fill in the newspaper. They had a fortnight worth of news that could only be filled, and still they had free space left.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do with that free space? I had inventory that was left. I walk into a retail shop and say, hey, put an ad here. That's how advertising started, just to say that.
Okay.
What has happened today, to link it back to your question, is there's an overdose of information. By the time this conversation ends, I think 1 billion pieces of content would have gone up. All right. So if you pull back when advertising started, there was less information to be shared. Today, there's too much information to be shared. It's the same thing that you consume content in a Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, Disney, or whatever it is, right? There is too much of content to consume. So yes, the attention span is diminishing, but it's not a bad thing per se. It just pushes the edge for quality, which is going to be better and better and better and better, which means I have to ensure that I arrest your attention as soon as possible. And again, when I say arrest your attention, it's not the only way that it is done. Like when I stacked up the Zoom media slide, I talked about Mammoth Studios, right? Which was the last part. And I talked about branded content and marketing content. What you are talking about is marketing content, where there are two ways in which advertising works or communication works: pull and push. Right? A push strategy is when I push something on your head and say, consume this piece of content or advertising. A pull strategy is what Red Bull does. They'll send a man to space and make him dive off. Didn't you go and see it live?
Yes, definitely.
So the point is that it'll gear towards more quality content like that.
Okay.
All right. So so TVF Pictures, for example, was an episodical series. Permanent Roommates, Tripling, all of these were by brands. The brands were in the conversation, in the story, in the narrative, in their life consistently, right?
Yes.
So Common Floor did it for Permanent Roommates. I think one of the Tata cars did it for Tripling. I don't remember the exact brands associated, but if you Google, you'll find it. They will weave into your story in some way or the other, subliminally or not.
Okay.
So it will eventually evolve into something which is more content that you will consume the way you naturally consume, without being irksome that you have to skip the ad. Because I have installed ad blockers too. I work in advertising, and then I removed the ad blockers because I needed to see what my competition was up to, what they were doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it will evolve into a phase where advertising is not going to be as intrusive, but it's going to be better, that it's going to impact you psychologically and subconsciously over time. That's how it will move towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that.
Thank you, sir.
Cool. Okay, guys, I guess we're done.
Wrap up. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time from your busy schedule. I'm sure it was a wonderful and an insightful session for all the students, and must have gained from your experience. We are really looking forward to connect with you further for various corporate engagements.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Have a nice time, guys. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
All the students, please stay back.